every single one of our dollars doesn't go as far as it did 5 short years ago, it's no wonder that people choose to buy a beautifully, nicely, lightly used vehicle. Unfortunately, no two used vehicles are the same. While brands like Lexus, Mazda, and even some Hondas represent very reliable motoring opportunities, deviate from those and you could find yourself in a world of hurt because there are many used vehicles that will crush you. I'm going to share a list of some of the worst used vehicles that you wouldn't dare owning outside of warranty. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
So the first one on our list is this vehicle right here. There's one on either side. And what is this? Well, clearly we're talking about a Land Rover product, and it's a Range Rover specifically. And if there's one vehicle that is enough to choke a horse, or more importantly, enough to bankrupt the royal family, this would probably be the unit if you're owning these outside of warranty. And I could speak to a lot of the different details with these. They're absolutely luxurious and wonderful when they're new. They seem to represent some great deals as a used vehicle, as you can get these for about 50% off of their original value in 3 short years. So once warranty's expired, you come along, get this thing that's 3 years old, and you can get an amazing deal. But be careful, because even as pretty as these vehicles look, I mean, Land Rover, it definitely has a reputation. Range Rover, you have beautiful headlights, oversized rims on there, red calipers, gorgeous. Look at the details there, and absolutely fold away mirrors with the LED strip, beautiful doors, one-touch accent in like that. And of course, I love the top here. You do get yourself a massive sunroof on top, which gives you a lot of light inside the cabin for all the happy customers, at least within the warranty period. Outside of warranty, be careful, because every year, just for basic servicing, oil services and so on, you're going to spend $1,500, $2,000 a year just to keep it serviced and greased. Forget about all the repairs, and there will be repairs and failures. Trust me, I've seen it. I have a JLR product, a Jaguar myself, and one of the things that you'll experience with these vehicles as well as a Jaguar are the infotainment, navigation, the electronics on the front, controls tend to be a failure point. And when it fails, it usually means time in the shop, your car's down, or a truck or SUV, and you have to wait for it. Other electrical issues are a big problem here. Of course, some of these models, supercharged V8, they're talking about some of the earlier generations having, there was actually a recall, allegedly NHTSA, and of course, allegedly lawsuits regarding timing chains, as they would let go because of the timing chain hardware, and then you could have a potential catastrophic engine failure. Coolant leaks, the infamous Y-pipe, obviously a big source of that. And here, more importantly, you see things like this vehicle sits low, it does sit on an air suspension, and as such, you generally can get airbag problems with these vehicles, and when that air system fails, it's mucho dinero. You can also get locked up problems here at the rear brakes. There's a little trigger brake here in the dash, and you can pull that, locks that holds the vehicle in place. That has been a problem, the electronic braking system. And of course, a lot of other knocks and clunks and banging issues. Some people have complained about carbon fouling. Of course, down in here, you can get a lot of carbon buildup coming out of the exhaust. Because these vehicles are direct injected, you can also get expensive injectors that fail, as well as a fuel pump, high pressure fuel pump, all cost big dollars. And as they age and they deteriorate, it's going to be an expensive proposition. It's also this older unit. You think, okay, I can get into an older Range Rover and I can get myself a great deal. But right here, here's an older generation Range Rover. This is also a sport, as we're looking right here. And as you could tell, this is a giveaway. This is the more boxy design. Of course, they have these beautiful Pep Boy grills here and that massive rocker panel deck all there. Of course, you have all kinds of nice technology in this vehicle, electronics, but unfortunately these vehicles, see, you could see this one slumped down because this has a problem with this air suspension and it's just sitting on its rump. Now you have a vehicle that's going to cost you a huge amount of money, and the problem is with these vehicles, good luck in fixing any of it, because it's not just the basic V8 engine in a lot of these vehicles. There's so many other technologically advanced components, and the electrical systems do get very timely to take these to the dealer. And at $200, $220 an hour shop rate, it starts to add up really quickly. So owning these outside of warranty, the Range Rover Sport, one of the biggest financial mistakes you could ever make. This little rig right here is one of those examples of a vehicle that is a catastrophic dumpster fire on wheels, if you will. It's just not only not great looking, the reliability is poor, and I even rented one of these a couple of years ago. When I opened the door, the driver door was a rental, only had about 10,000 miles on it, and the door dropped and sagged about a 1/4 inch, so it's not built all that well either. But what is this? Well, we're talking about a Cruise. This is definitely a Chevy Cruise F. I guess you could say, Chevy, and this is the LT, the long tail, if you will, if you're in McLaren territory. But no, seriously, not a great vehicle from a quality perspective. Yes, it's price point, and yes, you can drive the wheels off of it, but it's not going to last far outside of warranty, if at all. And now I realize it's not a hugely expensive vehicle, so it's not the end of the world if you invest in that small amount of money and then it goes poof after a few short years. But that's literally what it's going to have, because these vehicles, one issue is transmissions. You're going to put a transmission in this. It's almost guaranteed. And when you do, you'll probably get another year or two out of it, and then you'll see another transmission failure. You might see some slipping, some failing. It might some juddering, and it might even just slip to get into gear. It's just going to be a problem, and many owners have complained about that. We also talk about that engine, coolant leaks, water pump issues, but more importantly is the engine. And here's where I talk about this. If you have a vehicle that has one of the three key major elements that are known to mankind for failure, engine, transmission, or bad electrics, any one of those can literally write off the value of a vehicle. And this one, guess what? Has all three. It's a triple threat, because it's also commonly known in this little GMC or Chevy, the pistons. You can actually blow a hole in the piston, wind up puking a bunch of oil and spew out the back end, and you'll find yourself in a world of hurt, because that usually means the engine's gone. So that's not an uncommon phenomenon. And well, I have seen people that actually enjoy these and say, you know, I've had good luck. Yeah, it does get beautiful little alloy wheels. You get one touch accent in, basic little mirrors like that, and of course a basic headlights. You can change the bulbs yourself, but the fact remains is it's not that well made. There's lots of problems with it, and most people that I've talked to have had issues along the way, and generally these vehicles won't last outside of warranty. So it's one of those vehicles, don't even bother, save your money, spend an extra 5 or 10 grand, get yourself a Honda Civic or something that's much better built. Now the next one is a vehicle that I've advised many people over the years to basically stay away from. The vehicles generally aren't very well made, and unless you go with the top end engines, you're definitely going to wind up in a world of hurt. And every time, all I see is a lot of the reports, the CR and some of the other reports allegedly state that it's above average reliability, but in fact the reality, after these vehicles are 3 or 4 years of age and basically just fall out of warranty, that's when the hurting gets real. And this is the vehicle right here. Here we're looking at an Audi. Now I personally think most Audis are not all that well made. We're looking at a TFSI. This is a quattro all-wheel drive, means it's all-wheel drive. You got the 4 rings of despair, and we're looking at the A4. Yes, it's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, and yes, you do get great little tailpipes like a lot of cars don't now, but look, you do get carbon fouling in there. So yes, carbon fouling is a bit of an issue. Intake valves could be carboned up a little bit. The problem is, I know a few people that went out and bought older used Audis, 2011, 2012. Oh, what a devastating turn of events. Here isn't much better. Although there have been some minor improvements, there's not enough improvements to say, yeah, they're out of the woods. And now, while we're looking at here, a 2018 model year right there, that basically means it's the B9 generation. Yes, the 9th generation of this particular series. And yes, they're attractive. But honestly, if you're looking for this type of vehicle, you're choosing between this, a C-Class Mercedes, or of course a 3 Series BMW. Personally, this is the bottom of the barrel for me. Now, unless you get yourself something that's more S4, or you get into the RS generation of drivetrains, for example, Audi actually makes a great engine in the turbo 5-cylinder engine that you find in the TTRS and the RS3. That personally is one of my favorites, as well as that 4-liter twin-turbo V8 has had some early teething issues, is much better now. But this is not a good engine, and I believe, in my opinion, that Audi generally puts the cheapest engines, the cheapest R&D, and the most problems in the entry-level vehicles like we're seeing right here. So what kind of problems would you expect from here? Water pumps are really commonly known on these vehicles to fail. They're plastic and they're junk. Thermostats, of course, so coolant leaks are prevalent in these vehicles. That's not an uncommon issue. Engine mounts, so if you're starting to get the shakes on this vehicle, that's going to be a problem, and you're going to find that. Front control arm bushings, you're going to start getting that clunking in the front end. You hit a little bumps, these little cracks in the road, and then you're going to find it's getting clunky. That's not an uncommon issue either. Oil seepage, you're going to have all kinds of problems. Leaks, rear main crankshaft seal. Of course, the rear main seal isn't an uncommon issue in a lot of vehicles, but it's a poor design, and clearly oil coming out of the backside. That's between the interface between your engine and your transmission. You'll get oil down in that seep, and that is a common problem. Kind of gets costly because you have to pull some of the parts out. It's a big job. And of course, PCV pressure regulator unit, and of course, wear on the turbo wastegate. Yeah, there's a pivot shaft in there and it tends to go flaky, and naturally it seems like wheel bearings are a common issue. They just don't seem to hold up all that well. The wheel bearings are tucked in behind. the hub here, and of course those generally are known to go prematurely. But a few people that I've known buying more entry-level Audis, you know, with the 2-liter turbo 4, generally find themselves consuming oil. Yeah, some people I see in the forums are saying, oh, do it every 10,000 miles, change your oil every 10,000 miles. That's if you can actually last that long. Guaranteed you've gone through 3 or 4 quarts extra before that time. I know people that are literally putting a quart of oil every 1,000 kilometers. That's 600 miles. It's absolutely unacceptable by today's standards. By no means should you ever put in that kind of oil. And these vehicles, you can make them last. You can make any vehicle last outside of warranty. It's just going to be basically like death of 1,000 cuts. 500 there, 600 there, 2,500 there. That's what you're going to be faced with, a constant barrage of smaller nickel and dime. Of course, visiting your service shop to get those sorted out. These modern day 2-liter turbo TFSI engines by Audi, forget about it. And here's the next piece of junk. This one's a 2014, but in this generation, we're looking at a Hyundai, and this is a Sonata right here. As you can see, we're talking limited. Yeah, it's limited all right in how reliable it is. There's a whole host of problems that you can actually expect with these vehicles. Way too many almost list. We know they have quite a reputation. As a matter of fact, there's been lots of NHTSA noise about this, a lot of lawsuits about this, and it doesn't just begin and end with the engine. But let's talk about some of the issues. Number one, they say for some reason, a lot of the electrics, the exterior lights, for some reason, there's a high prevalence of shorting out, faulting, failing. You're having to change, you know, bulbs, lights, fixtures way too soon. Not just on the front, but even on the back around here too. There's also been some complaints about quality, fit and finish, the trim, but that's not the big issue here. The big issue is even the transmission down in here. There's some drive linkages that have come loose, and it's a big problem. NHTSA actually got a hold of that one too, where the actual linkage can break loose, come loose, and then either the vehicle can inadvertently roll away and do its own magic, or in fact, you try to put it in gear and it won't necessarily respond. So the transmission has been a source of big issues. People are talking about the steering wheel being particularly sticky. Try to grab a hold of that and it's just yucky on your hands. But as well, there's been a big, huge debate about the quality of the engines. And the engines of these vehicles here, in the Alabama plant where they manufactured and machined the blocks for these vehicles, there was extra machining material. So some of the material, the aluminum, just stayed in the engine. It wasn't properly cleaned out. And then they put their rod bearings in. And then what would eventually happen with some time, the oil circles, splashes around, the material particulate moves through the engine, then it locks in and stalls out, prevents the oil squirters and locks in to some of the rod bearings, thus creating extra hot spots and potentially a catastrophic boom, or even worse, a roadside fire, which has been a huge problem for a lot of people. And not only that, allegedly people have been waiting a long time to even get a lot of replacement engines. Some people just missed the window of their warranty. And even Hyundai and Kia recently were almost forced, allegedly, into the maneuver where they had to extend the warranty on the drivetrains for these vehicles just because it impacted way too many people and it was consistently a big issue. So I know I've heard a lot of people say to me, you know what, no, why are you giving them such a hard time? I've had a Hyundai for 5 years and it's been absolutely flawless. I like the design, I like the way it looks. It's nicer than some of the outdated Hondas and Toyota products. But yeah, even with great headlights lists, and of course you get chrome detail on the front grille. Of course you get alloy wheels and beautiful tuck-away mirrors like this, big sunroof space on top, and lots of great detailing. You also get very sleek design elements on these vehicles. But it's not just that. If your vehicle's not safe to drive, or it potentially catches fire, or it makes knocking noises, or the transmission doesn't work, or the steering feels very sticky and tight and it doesn't work properly, what good is all the style and the cheap fake plastic grille when none of that stuff works properly? So the Hyundai Sonata, specifically the 2014 or in that generation, are clearly used vehicles you definitely don't want to own outside of warranty. And right there's the next beater that I definitely wouldn't touch with a 180.5 pole, definitely outside of warranty anyway. If you want to own it inside of warranty, that's okay. Warranty will protect you from all the issues that this vehicle has, and issues it does have, lots of them. And it's a poorly built vehicle generally. I know a couple of people actually that own these. Both folks are extremely disappointed and would never do it again. And they've actually had to go back for warranty work, and then they're dreading the moment where they have that next big kaboom, because that's where it's actually coming. These have a whole host of issues, from electrical problems, gremlins. Oh, we've heard of issues with the exhaust system getting squeaky and rattling and making noises. I mean, here, that's not all well put together, is it? Oh, no sunroof. It is supposed to be a luxury brand, Buick. No sunroof. This should be sold strictly as a Chevy Trax then, and it should never be a product of a Buick, which is a luxury brand. It's a pretty nasty looking vehicle, skinny. It doesn't even look like a proper SUV. It's kind of narrow looking, funky. Engines make noise. Too much howling, not enough power, turbocharged issues. And somebody that I know has one of these actually had to go back for some tuning because there were some drivability issues with the turbo and the boost, and it just wasn't driving very well. But another big issue are brakes, suspension issues, clunking, banging, and noises coming from the front end of these vehicles. Of course, lots of issues along the drive system on these units. And the individual I know actually says they've got steering issues where it sort of gets seized and it's not consistent, and there's sort of like tight spots in it, as well as suspension problems. We know that the engine also has a prevalence to actual catastrophic failure, but the big one here is the transmission. And like I've said before, vehicles that are weak in one of the three areas, engine, transmission, or electrical systems, are definitely prone to not wanting to keep, because they will keep you in a world of hurt. And especially out of warranty, you don't even want to touch that. But these have a triple threat as well, because transmissions are a common failure in these. Torque converters specifically, where it takes the transmission out, you may need a partial rebuild or a complete replacement on the transmission. So the Buick Encore of this generation, an absolute disaster. Definitely don't want to own outside of warranty. Here's another one right here that I don't believe is going to last all that well, particularly outside of warranty, because warranty, it's great to drive your vehicle in, you get all your prepaid services, and as well warranty breakdowns are all looked after. But I have this exact car here, but mine's in blue, and I just want to share some of my personal experiences. And now we're at a point where warranty is just running out, and now I'm actually worried because of the caliber of some of the failures. The transmission holds up quite well in this Mercedes-Benz. Obviously, that's a pretty solid piece. Here we have a 4-cylinder engine. It's a turbo 4, 2-liter engine, makes about 245 horsepower, so the performance is good. The economy is solid. We've had issues with the headlights and their direction and their elevation. We've had to get them redone a couple of times. Wheels, not bad, but they make some squeaky noise. And now our vehicle has developed a little bit of a rolling squeak at low sounds. And it's not the tires, because we've changed the tires. So there's something going on. I've talked to a few people in the forum, and they say the transmission actually has a bearing within that might even be your culprit. That's going to be a potentially expensive fix. See this? Ours popped right off. We hit some train tracks, boom, and this dropped right down by about a ½ inch. We had to get this refastened at the dealer. And while it's economical, it generally just doesn't feel like it's going to hold up all that well. I don't have a lot of inspiration or confidence in the vehicle's quality. Plastics, parts falling off, squeaks, rattles interior-wise, and the drivetrain. There's been lots of conversation of people in the early generation of this engine, in the C300 Mercedes-Benz here, of the engine blowing a hole in a piston. Very, very dramatic situation. If that happens, definitely look out. EGR, possibly low-grade fuel, could be contributing factors, but either way, detonation does eventually pop a hole in that piston, and there's been lots of people complaining about that. The rest of the vehicle feels very fragile, and quite frankly, this Mercedes-Benz C300 doesn't have what it takes to own it well outside of warranty. Now here's a real doozy that you're definitely going to want to avoid. What we're talking about is 2019. Now that means it's just outside of warranty right now. These vehicles, even if people got extended warranty, you're probably finding most of these no longer have warranty on them, and you definitely don't want to buy a 2019 or newer because of some drastic changes that this brand, Infiniti, obviously, as we're seeing right here, has made to this particular model, and it's the QX50. This is a disaster on wheels. Why? Well, a lot of people say it looks great. I mean, we have all-wheel drive. Of course, right there we have a beautiful set of tips, gorgeous wheels on here, chrome detail on the top, and a big sunroof to make everybody happy inside, at least until they own it outside of warranty. Why? Well, there's a lot of things going on with this, other than the fact that heavy oil consumption is noted because this is a drastically new and changed engine. The other detail is a transmission that literally is set up for failure. CVT, common issues with Nissan Infiniti products, garbage. They slip, they're jerky, they make noise, they bang and clunk, and eventually they just outright fail. And we're talking about thousands of dollars to repair that issue. Now as well, people are talking about some of the pedestrian avoidance or some of the forward collision avoidance systems not working properly, and the sensors maybe being somewhat out of alignment, electronic issues inside of these vehicles, brake problems, suspension. I've heard of fuel issues as well, but the big one is because of this engine. Yes, it's a new engine, and not just does it consume oil, it actually is variable compression for the first time in commercial use. So instead of having a conventional crankshaft, connecting rod and piston. That connecting rod now is replaced with a series of multi-link components that are actuated by the computer. And customers who own these 2019 and newer are starting to find out the hard way of too much technology inside the internals of an engine, where we should just stick to the routine. So 2019 Infiniti QX50, forget about it. Don't own that one outside of warranty. Here's the next vehicle here that you definitely shouldn't consider buying outside of warranty. As a matter of fact, it's so bad that even Jeep, this brand, actually discontinued this. We're looking at the Cherokee, and it's the Trailhawk specifically, but they're actually giving up. Stellantis, Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, that whole Ram product lineup actually gave up the ghost on the base Cherokee. Yeah, I know they're trying to sell their more premium versions, the Grand Cherokees, and they're putting more investment in the bigger margin vehicles, but these ones definitely are ones you don't want to buy outside of warranty. Yes, I get it. You have these weird looking headlights. I mean, that makes this vehicle stand out, so you know exactly what you're dealing with here. These vehicles here have this weird small grille, and it's a Jeep, so people love that. They love to carry the brand name, and they think that brand name is going to take them off-roading. But think again, I mean, this isn't going to haul your buddy out of the mud, that little hook there. And definitely these little wheels, sure, you've got some all-terrain tires on there, but that's not going to get it done, because this is nothing much more than a unibody all-wheel drive minivan style chassis on these vehicles. Trail rated? Not sure about that. Anyway, you have easy access in. There's a little button to get in, roof rack on top, and lots of sunroof space to let light inside for the sad, unhappy little people as they're waiting roadside for the tow truck to show up. Obviously here, sure, you got some trail rated plastics on there, and of course cute little tail lights on this Jeep. And again, more badging, Trailhawk here. More of these little hooks to haul your little buddy out of the mud with his quad when he gets stuck, or maybe he can pull you out. And of course you got a little hook here. I'm not sure I would hitch anything into this. This transmission's not going to hold up. That's right, like a lot of Jeep products, these transmissions aren't necessarily the best. Even with a ZF automatic, tuning sometimes has been a problem, or electric wiring harnesses have been problematic and led to some troubles. Juddering, bucking, and poor behavior by the transmission results in very expensive repairs if and when it happens. But more importantly, engine, catastrophic failures. Absolutely, that's a typical failure mode. We also have lots of oil leaks, coolant leaks coming out of that engine, throttle position sensor issues from here, and of course a whole host of other challenges. And realizing, of course, some of the items are just maintenance related. For example, ignition wires may fail and short out, causing rough running or poor driving conditions. Of course, exhaust manifolds right under there, those cracks on the weld start spitting and sputtering and making weird noises. Exhaust leaks because of cracked flanges. As well as the front and the rear differential pinion seals, there can be a problem, and transfer case leaks. So personally, I'm never going to say anything that Jeep is high quality or unproblematic. But the reality is, if you want a Jeep, go all the way in a Wrangler. Otherwise, if you want a standard SUV, there's many other better choices. Go with a Lexus. Go with something that is a much more durable and reliable. But if you want a Jeep, forget about these. There's a reason why Jeep left these to die, and here it is. So I definitely wouldn't recommend buying one of these Jeep Cherokees outside of warranty. Here's another unit you definitely don't want to buy outside of warranty. There's been so much controversy over the Kia brand. What we're looking at here is the Sportage. Clearly, it's a cute little vehicle, and those that say that they haven't had a problems have generally said it's been a pretty reliable ride, and that's not too far from the truth. But unfortunately, it's almost like Russian roulette. If you have a 2012 to 2013 model year, specifically Theta 2 engines, there's a lot of situations where people are talking about catastrophic engine failures, roadside fires, noises, knocking, as well as just engine shutting down. Then in 2017, they figured they had it sorted, but then they had even more problems with Theta 2, or engine issues, replacements, and all kinds of problems as NHTSA flushed out a lot of these issues that a lot of customers unfortunately were having to deal with. So these vehicles have had a lot of troubles. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, Sportage can be a reliable, fun little vehicle by Kia. Of course, they have a basic little tail lights, little overhang, quite a fun little unit. Of course, right here, chrome detail on the handles as well as along the trim. It's a cute ride all the way along. It comes all-wheel drive, and it has a very basic headlights on this little Kia. Of course, here you're starting to see it yellow. It's starting to burn, but that's not uncommon for projector-style lamps like that. So overall, it's a good-looking little unit, but unfortunately, lots of problems. And then it's not until 2018 that they say it's a little safer bet if you want to get your hands on one of these. But personally, I couldn't, in my right mind, advise anyone buying a Kia Sportage with the number of engine failures because of the rod knock, as well as a lot of other electronic issues, ABS, stalling, and a whole host of other problems, including fuel leaks in 2017. Definitely you want to avoid these vehicles like the plague, because they're going to cause you nothing but heartache outside of warranty. And here's the next little hot rod right here that you definitely wouldn't want to touch outside of warranty. Now granted, this one's way outside of warranty, but you can still buy these cars, and the fact remains is here in North America, they're actually hard to service. Yes, there are some small dealer service networks, but yeah, they've expanded, of course, to the Dodge Chrysler, but then you take it to the Chrysler Ram Stellantis space, and half of them don't seem to know how to fix these things. But the reality is these cars are basically very fragile. I mean, let's take a quick look. Headlights, very poor. Yeah, I mean, this car's been rode hard, and there's no doubt about it. Look at the beautiful little wheels, 500, basic little mirrors, no sunroof on top, and yes, chrome detail right there. I like the looks of the style, I'm not gonna lie. The detail of it looks very interesting. And you know, when I was in Europe last year, I definitely saw lots of these floating around. But here in North America, they just don't have the following. They can't take up with the abusive weather, the harsh elements, the rough roads, the extreme temperatures, -40 to +40, and then they just don't have what it takes to hold up. And the worst part is servicing is the big challenge. But more importantly, you have weaknesses in issues like suspension, brake problems, gearbox issues, clutches are weak. These cars just become too flimsy. The engines are quite weak as well. They're known to blow head gaskets, consume old coolant, burn, leak oil, as well as basically just catastrophically fail. They're not well made. They're a lightly weaker vehicle. Definitely, it's more of a light duty, almost a golf cart type of technology there. But quite frankly, I wouldn't recommend one of these to anybody close, because they won't last very long. And with all of that said, be sure to check out right there. If you've been shopping for a new or used vehicle and you want one with a reliable drivetrain, that's the list of some of the best options out there today. Hope to see each and every one on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.